Today we're going to start division with decimals. Now there are 2 steps that we have to worry about at the start, for today's lesson at least. Let's get these 2 steps written down and then do some examples. The first thing you need to do when you're dividing decimals is you need to place the decimal directly above in your answer. So your decimal is going to go just straight up from where it is in the problem. The second thing you're going to do then is just use the standard long division algorithm. So let's start with a basic problem. Let's say you're taking 14 and 25 hundredths, and you're dividing it by 5. So when we do our long division, the first number goes inside. We're going to put the 14 and 25 hundredths on the inside, and we're dividing by 5, so we're going to put it on the outside. The first step says to put your decimal straight up in your answer. So I'm going to do that. That means my decimal is going to go directly in the spot above the division bar. And then I'm going to do regular long division into this problem, kind of just working past the decimal when I get to that point. So 5 does not go into 1, so we don't have a number there. 5 goes into 14 2 times, that's 10. Subtract, you get 4. Bring down the 2. Now, even though it's on the other side of the decimal, we're still going to look at that 4 as 42. 5 goes into 42 8 times, but that 8 is on the other side of the decimal. So 8 times 5 is 40. Subtract to get 2. Bring down the 5. 5 goes into 25 5 times. 5 times 5 is 25, and you get 0. So 5 goes into 14 and 25 hundredths, 2 and 85 hundredths times. Now you can see how with money, this works out beautifully. You can say you spent $14.25 on candy at the candy store. You're dividing that price by the 5 people you're with. Each person has to pay $2.85. You're going to find that dividing decimals mainly deals with money. A lot of the time deals with money. Okay, let's look at example 2. Let's say I want you to do 32 hundredths divided by 4. Now, this is kind of tricky. Let's see how we do on this one. If I put the 32 hundredths inside and the 4 outside, I know that I want to put my decimal directly above in my answer, so the decimal starts right there. Now, because it's after the decimal, and this is the tricky part, you have to show place value. So in the first example, I just put that little X there because 5 didn't go into 1. In this example, because the 3 is part of a decimal, it's in the tenths place, you have to show that place value. So we have to show that 4 goes into 3 0 times. 0 times 4 is 0. I subtract, I get 3, and bring down the 2. 4 goes into 32 8 times. 8 times 4 is 32, and we get 0. So it's important that we're really watching that place value. 32 hundredths divided by 4 is 8 hundredths. Now remember, we can always check our work by doing the multiplication. If I take 8 hundredths times 4, that's 32. There are 2 numbers after the decimal. So I swoopy 2 spaces over, and I get that 32 hundredths. If I didn't have that 0 there, I would only have 3.2. So it's still good to check your work with the multiplication. All right, 2 more. Okay, so your soda has 67 grams of sugar. There are 4 grams of sugar in every teaspoon. How many teaspoons of sugar do you have in your soda? So we need to take that 67 and divide it by 4. Now, I know this doesn't look like a decimal problem, but I'm going to show you how this is going to work. In the past, we would have wrote our answer as a fraction. Today, we're going to be able to do this as decimals. So I have 67, I'll write it a little lower, divided by 4. Now, our first step is to put the decimal straight up in our answer. We need to remember that when you have a whole number, the decimal is after the whole number. So my decimal is going to go straight up in my answer right here. And then we need to remember that you can add zeros after a decimal as many times as you want. So we're going to be able to add zeros in that problem if we need to. So let's take a look. 4 goes into 6 one time. That's 4. Subtract, you get 2. Bring down the 7. 4 goes into 27 6 times. That's 24. Subtract, you get 3. So now when I look at this, I don't have anything to bring down, but you can add as many zeros as you want after a problem. So I'm going to bring down another 0. 4 goes into 30. Now I'm working on the opposite side of the decimal. 4 goes into 37 times. That is 28. I subtract, I get 2. Still not done. I'm not writing a fraction yet. I'm not going to write a fraction because I've decided to do this as a decimal. So I'm going to add another 0. I'm going to bring that down. 4 goes into 25 times. There's 20. And we end with 0. So I have 16 and 75 hundredths. So you're going to write your sentence that says, your soda has (16 and 75 hundredths) teaspoons of sugar. So again, you're dividing into that whole number instead of writing a fractional answer, which you could have before. Now we're going to add that decimal and just keep dividing. All right, our last example. Okay, so you and 6 friends go out to dinner. The bill is $46.90. You all decide to split the bill equally. How much did you spend? All right, so that in this problem, we know that we're going to take the $46.90 and divide it equally among how many people are there. Here's the tricky part of this problem. This says you and 6 friends. So you need to realize that that's actually 7 people. All right, let's do this division. I have $46.90 divided by 7 people. And I know my decimal is going to go straight up in my answer. 7 doesn't go into 4. 7 goes into 46 6 times. That's 42. Subtract, I get 4. Bringing down that 9. Now 7 goes into 49 7 times, and that's on the other side of the decimal. And now I'm at 0. So do I have to deal with this last 0? It's a really good question. So you have to realize your answer is money. And because your answer is money, your answer has to go all the way to the hundredths. So I do have to show that 7 goes into 0 times, because now I actually have dollars and cents in my answer. You have to go all the way to the hundredths place when you're dealing with money. So the answer is you will spend $6.70 on dinner. All right. You should try this out, and then you're going to be doing some problems in your student journal. Good luck.